That's what we look like.
Can you say hello to Chris?
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Will you turn your volume?
I thought it was, yeah, hold on.
Your
Hi,
speaker?
everyone. The other panel still isn't done. They're still wrapping up a little bit, so it might be a few more minutes.
Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Would you mind if you gave us share access?
I'm actually an attendee. I don't work for Top Kids,
Oh,
so
I apologize. Thank you so much.
I'd give it,
Thank you
I'd
for
give
the
it to you
notice.
if I could.
Thanks. That's funny.
That's very.
I think the moderator will. Joseph is joining. So how many do we have so far? I think we were waiting because the previous session ran.
It did. Yeah, it just was
Okay.
ending now. So right now
Got
there's
it.
17 people in here.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Amazing. I'm just trying to.
And is one of those 17 the moderator?
I am the moderator, yes.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Of course.
Just let us know then when you'd like us to get started.
Okay.
And then also.
Give just a second. We see still people are coming in from the thing, but just a second or two, and then we'll get, because
Okay, yeah.
we're already a couple of minutes behind anyway.
No problem.
All right.
Can someone confirm that they can see our slide deck presentation?
Yes, I can see,
Great.
and you guys too. All right, we can go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to this session. I'm Joe Lloyd. I'm one of the conference organizers, and I'll be the moderator for this session. Today we have a group of 3 people that will be speaking. And our topic today is going to be taking learning further with AI assisted assessments. And our speakers today are Chad Feyas, Tanya Goldberg, and Aubry Jacques. Hope I didn't butcher anybody's name. But just a reminder, this session is being recorded, so just letting you know. But all right, if you guys want to go ahead and take it away, and I'll let you know when time is getting close.
Great, thank you so much. So hello again, I'm Chad Feyas.
I'm Tanya Goldberg.
And I'm Aubry Jacques.
So you did well on the names, actually.
Yes, you did.
And we're instructional designers with the Center for Online and Continuing Education at Florida Atlantic. We're joining you today from sunny Boca Raton, Florida, and hoping it's bright and sunny wherever you are as well. We want to invite you to participate at a few points with us through Slido, so you can join there now. And if you have any questions throughout the session, I will also be monitoring them in the conference app, so I'll do my best to monitor those and hope to address those either during the presentation or at the end of our time. And so you can post any questions there as well. But actually, on that note, I want to kick off with a little bit of a poll, which is your thoughts on AI as a useful component in learning activities. So go ahead and take a minute or two to vote on that. This just helps us get a sense of who we're sharing this time with, and that would be great. So developing AI-assisted assignments is, of course, the focus of today's presentation. By that, we mean activities that have students using generative AI as a tool in the learning process. Last year, as a department, we developed over 60 AI-assisted sample assignments that faculty can access through Canvas Commons and modify for their own use. We're of course going to showcase some of those examples of those assignments and talk about our development process. We're also going to give you a chance to create or maybe adapt an assignment of your own, and we look forward to hearing some of your ideas on those. Let's see what we're... Great, okay, it seems like we have a lot of enthusiasm about AI, which is good. So before we get into any of that, though, we want to kind of start off with sharing a little bit of the background into this project and how these assignments came to be. So Tanya, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, really at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, we all started to see this big shift happening. Generative AI wasn't just a buzzword anymore. It was really becoming a priority in higher education. With tools like ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot becoming more widely accessible and used, this also became a major conversation with our faculty, some of who were really concerned with academic integrity. Around the same time, we were also feeling this push from the top down from the Florida Board of Governors, which really showed how AI readiness needed to be addressed across institutions. So at that time, it was us, our department, along with the Office of Information Technology that was tasked at taking action. While the Office of Information Technology really kind of focused on the infrastructure, creating a website that housed AI resources, workshops, and trainings, we kind of leaned more into the pedagogical side of it, asking ourselves, how can we integrate AI into courses that really supports teaching and learning? And that's really where our key initiative began. And our key initiative was developing a repository of AI-assisted assignments. We wanted to have real adaptable examples that our faculty could quickly use and get started with, especially those that were, kind of hesitant to start or just didn't really know where to begin. And that was one of our main points. But we also really did this because of our students. We knew that students were using AI and we wanted to take that use and make it more constructive. We wanted to see how could we build AI literacy, AI fluency into the curriculum to really make our students better critical thinkers, more informed users, as well as better prepared for the future of the workforce. So this really wasn't just about, adopting new tech. It was about supporting our faculty and preparing our students for what's here and what's to come next.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. That's great. And it was really cool getting to work on these assignments as a department. I need to mention that while the three of us did work on many of these assignments, this was kind of a whole department effort. So dozens of people contributed to these, and we certainly want to recognize that. So now to kind of get more into the nitty-gritty, what do these assignments actually look like? So as I mentioned earlier, what we mean by AI-assisted assignments is basically some kind of learning activity that has students using generative AI at one or more junctures. So the goal is not simply to help students become more acquainted with AI, although that's certainly a benefit, excuse me. And also it's not to just assess their use or their proficiency with AI, though growth in that area is certainly a side effect. Instead, the goal is really to capitalize on AI as a tool that can promote deeper learning and critical thinking, and ultimately to take learning further than would otherwise be possible. So as I said, we created a host of sample assignments, and as you likely saw in the blurb, a big inspiration for these was the book ChatGPT Assignments to Use in Your Classroom Today by Kevin Yee and his colleagues at UCF. Fantastic resource that you should definitely check out if you haven't. These samples cover all kinds of subject matter, some of the assignments being course specific, others more general. And so like ordinary assignments, these assignments have learning objectives related to the course. They have instructions and deliverables and assessment criteria. The key though is that we wanted to incorporate AI as a sort of partner with the student in the learning process. And so in our development of these assignments, we came to realize that we see 4 broad categories or maybe use cases of how AI might be incorporated in these assignments. So that's what I kind of want to show you some examples of now. The first major use of AI in this way is simply to generate something. In other words, you make something with an AI tool that's helpful for your learning. So for a really basic example, students might input their notes and readings into an AI tool and have it generate a list of key takeaways or like a study guide. Or you could generate ideas for a project, such as business ideas for an entrepreneurship class, or even generating or helping to explore potential gaps in the literature, like in a researching context, gaps that you could address in further research or pursue. So in addition to generating new content, students could also generate content in a new way, such as, for example, explain systems theory to me like I am a kindergartner. That's actually one I use quite a bit. The like I am a kindergartner, that helps me out quite a bit. Or help me remember the phases of mitosis by creating a song in the style of Johnny Cash. So those are just some basics. Let me show you one of my favorite examples of this type of assignment that we created. The assignment is called Crafting Your Time Management Strategy. So students use an AI tool of their choosing to create a personalized time management plan for their semester. So here on the screen, you'll see the steps. So first, students conduct self-assessment of their current time management skills. So they use ChatGPT to create a 5-question survey to assess their time management skills, and then write, their observation of their current habits, basically. Second, they set SMART goals. So they prompt ChatGPT, what are SMART goals? If they need to, they use ChatGPT to help them list 3 SMART goals for improving their time management, factoring in their school, their personal responsibilities, all of that. They track their time over 3 to 5 days. They can use a template created with ChatGPT, perhaps, recording their activities, their study time, their rest, etc. They analyze the time log to identify patterns, areas for improvement, and adjust their goals accordingly. And then last, they reflect on their experience, and they can use, from there, use ChatGPT to explore maybe some techniques for overcoming some of their, opportunities for growth and things like that. So for the deliverables for this assignment, they're submitting an initial time management survey, description of their time management habits, their SMART goals, their time tracking, their analysis, and their reflection on what insights did they gain as a part of doing this. And then as far as the assessment, they're graded on those things as well. Their self-assessment, the goals they created, the completion of the time tracking, and their analysis of their findings and their reflection. Now, okay, so obviously this rubric is abbreviated quite a bit for the sake of the visual. And how we assess these assignments is I think a really important subject. It's something I'm really interested in, and it's probably something we would need a whole other session to like really dive into.
Yes.
But what I wanted to show here is that for all of these assignments, students are rarely, if ever, being assessed on what AI gave them, plain and simple. Instead, it's their own kind of process with the activity and their reflection that we're grading. So this is important not only because there's a lot of variability in terms of what students are going to get back from certain AI tools, but also because the assignment graded this way requires something beyond simply getting the tool to complete the assignment for them.
Right.
So in other words, I can't promise that a student won't cut corners with this particular assignment, but it would be very difficult for a student to cut corners on this assignment using AI, right? So we'll see that kind of in some more examples we'll look at as well. So the assignment could be adapted in a lot of ways to be more specific for a certain course or subject matter. But this is one basic example of how students might use AI to generate something as part of an assignment. The second use case for AI in assignments is analyze. So in this way, students are using the output that they get from the AI tool as material that they can assess or evaluate. So imagine tasking students in a nursing course with getting ChatGPT to diagnose a patient based on symptoms and also to give a rationale that explains the diagnosis. So then the nursing students would evaluate that output. So would the suggested diagnosis, is it right? Is it the best diagnosis? Is the rationale that ChatGPT or whatever tool provided, is it sound? What factors might the tool be failing to consider? So they're analyzing or evaluating the actual output of AI. And in this way, the assignment is keeping critical thinking at the forefront. And as a sort of side effect, especially with analyze kind of assignments, this often gives students a good sense of the limitations of AI tools in addition to the possibilities with them. Here's another example of an analyze assignment. So this would perhaps work well like near the end of a semester. Students choose a course concept or topic from the course, and they use an AI tool to generate something creative. So it can be like a poem or a song or some kind of visual or chart, whatever they want to do. And next, they analyze the generated content for accuracy and relevance. So does it actually fully explain the concept? What's missing? Is anything not relevant or extraneous in any way? And so then they need to make necessary adjustments to their creation to ensure that it effectively explains the topic. And they can continue to iterate with the tool or make adjustments themselves, whatever they want to do. And then once they believe that they've got a sufficient kind of representation of their topic, they can share it with the class. So again, as far as the deliverables, they're submitting a text or a visual that they've got back from AI, an explanation of its strengths and its gaps, maybe a copy of their transcript of iterating with AI for further adjustments, and then their finalized creation to present and share with the class. And then again, as far as the rubric, they're mostly here evaluated on their analysis of the AI and how they refine it. And then of course, some points reserved for their final project, for the final product rather. So, and this would be cool, especially like if the instructor divvied out certain topics across the class, then the class would have a nice kind of anthology to study from, as well as to refer back to, long after the course. So I know some of you are probably thinking at this point, well, technically that assignment is analyzing, but also they have to generate something. And yeah, that's totally the case. So these categories that we kind of see are definitely not mutually exclusive. Right. And in fact, they often function well with one another. So they can often,
Scaffolding,
yeah,
yes.
scaffolding,
Yep.
exactly. So that kind of brings us to our third category, which is refine. So this category may be a little bit self-explanatory, but students are basically using an AI tool to improve their own work in some way. So for instance, for a paper, and actually a lot of the assignments we created in this category have to do with writing in some way. They could ask for suggested improvements on grammar, sentence structure, reasoning, as well as more creative things like how dynamic is their writing? Could they tailor it better for a certain audience or in a certain style? For another example though, suppose students in a business class need to craft a sales pitch, and they could provide AI their pitch and ask for suggested improvements or what they may be potentially overlooking in their sales pitch, things like that. Where I feel this is especially useful though is in explaining wrong answers, which is the title of the next assignment I want to share with you. So here we're in the context of like a math or science course. Could you flip to the next? I don't know. Thanks.
There you go.
So yeah, in the context of math or science, or some course where you have to do calculations, this activity gives students the opportunity to refine their problem-solving skills while also evaluating and correcting their own calculations. So first, students review their work to identify incorrect answers. So assuming they've done some kind of assignment, they maybe got some answers incorrect. They consult an AI tool, so ChatGPT or whatever. They provide the equation or calculation and ask for a step-by-step instruction guide for how they can complete that calculation. And so then students will use the guide to identify their missteps in their own calculations or resolve anything that they need to. And then they could even, if they wanted to, request additional like practice problems or something like that. So as far as what they turn in, copy of their interaction with the tool, as well as their corrections to original work, explanations of their discoveries. And this reflects what they're scored on as well, which you can see here. So this is really an incredibly simple assignment, but it has the potential to really help students, in an accessible way on their schedule with immediate kind of feedback, extra practice. And notice again here, they're not being graded on actually not even on their correct answers. Instead, they're being scored on their self-evaluation of where it was that where they're misstepping in the calculation and their process of actually correcting their work. So to kind of reiterate, and this is important because I saw a few questions in the chat that dealt with the idea of cheating, right? And students are using AI to cheat or to cut corners or to. So here, and with these assignments, it wasn't our express goal to create assignments that were resistant to cheating with AI.
Right.
But actually, here again, it would be very difficult to cheat using AI because of this grading criteria. What we're actually assessing them on is not just did they get the right answer, but it actually is shifting the focus onto their own thinking, their own metacognition, rather than just getting the right answer.
Helping them reflect.
Exactly, yeah, the reflection piece, yeah.
Yep.
And then for a final use case here, students can use AI to role play. I think this is perhaps the most fun, but the basic idea is that you ask the AI tool to assume the role of someone or something. So suppose you wanted your students to prepare for an interview, the AI tool can become the interviewer. So students can maybe preempt some questions that they're going to be asked, practice their responses, things like that. One of our faculty members created this kind of elaborate group activity related to disaster relief. So groups were provided a unique prompt that basically started like a gamified case study. So like it was a case study, but there was certain decision points and the group had to make certain decisions and provide their rationale for those. It was a really, really fun activity, really cool. I'll show you one example though of an assignment titled Interviewing Historical Figures. This is another way you can role play. So suppose in a history course, you have students, ordinarily, you'd have them, study or present on an important historical figure. You might have the students research the figure using primary and secondary sources. Imagine a secondary component for that assignment where the students ask ChatGPT to assume the role of their figure and then actually interview their figure in first person. So this, you could take this in all sorts of directions. So are they asking questions about the figure just in general? Are they asking questions to better understand the time period, some of the currents of thought during that period, or about that person's contribution? Are they actually interviewing the figure on their thoughts about contemporary issues, right? So there's all kinds of ways we could take this. Then they could even, if you wanted to take it even further, they could evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of the pseudo persona that they got back from AI by comparing it with the research they did with primary and secondary sources. And so, in other words, how accurate was the representation in the interview? Did it, you think it rightly reflect the figure you're studying, or what was missing, things like that.
Right.
And then they could reflect on their experience, discussing any insights, discoveries they had as a result of it. I'm sure you kind of get the gist by now, but here's what they're turning in, a transcript of their conversation with AI, their evaluation, their reflection, and the rubric here is similar. So I hope that gives you, I know that was a lot of info to take in, but I hope that gives you a sense of just some of the ways that AI can assist in learning activities. So to reiterate, these categories are not mutually exclusive, and probably they're not exhaustive either. There's probably more than just these 4 categories that would be possible. And in fact, if you have, if you see more use cases, please feel free to share it with us. We'd love to hear that. Okay, so you might be thinking, okay, that's really great for you guys. You created those AI-assisted assignments, but that's something I'm not really sure where I'd even begin. What would that look like for me to create my own AI-assisted assignments? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about next. So I'll hand it over to Aubry on that note.
Thank you so much, Chad. And now that we've explored 4 key use cases AI can support learning: generate, analyze, refine, and role play, let's go ahead and shift our focus to the process of actually designing AI-assisted assignments. So maybe you're totally uncertain of where to begin for creating assignments that integrate AI. Well, the good news is it's not as challenging as you might think, and a great place to actually start is, well, AI. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the structured approach that I use when I'm working with faculty to create assignments. And this approach actually ensures that AI is not just a novelty within your classroom, but it's more so a meaningful tool that can deepen student engagement and learning outcomes while also providing AI literacy and workplace readiness. Now, my approach follows a graduated prompt process, which establishes a baseline in the chat by building background knowledge. From there, we'll go ahead and scaffold learning and create multiple iterations of these scaffolded assessments that can be integrated into a course curriculum. This method allows AI to serve as an educational assistant, adapting to different learning levels while enhancing critical thinking and problem-solving skills. So the first step in this process is to define use cases of AI in this field. For example, when designing assignments for a course like crime and the criminal justice system, we start by asking AI a broad, open-ended question. How can we use you for crime and the criminal justice system? This initial query helps us explore the potential of AI within the topic itself, uncovering areas where AI can be leveraged to enhance student learning. From here, we can refine our approach by constructing a more detailed prompt. Once we establish the course context, we create a structured, scalable plan. I do this by using a framework that gives AI a role, the task, and course topical outline, as well as any other instructions I would need for it to properly provide me with an adequate iteration the first time around. A sample prompt might be, I'm teaching a course titled Crime in the Criminal Justice System. Act as a subject matter expert and create upper-level course assignments for a 15-week CCJ 2002 online course that provides students with an understanding of law, crime, and the criminal justice system in America. So sorry. because we want to be specific to where we are. I'll then enter the course topical outline, and then I also add that I would like for you to break these assignments down into scalable assignments over a 15-week course, with the 15th week being the week they submit their final version or compiled versions of their deliverables. Be sure to add any components where AI can be used as a tool or an assistant. Now, although that's a very lengthy prompt, this approach actually helps to ensure that assignments are not just one-off activities, but they are scaffolded over the semester, building towards a final deliverable in week 15 or whichever ending number of modules your course is. It also integrates AI as a tool for research, analysis, and problem solving. So we can see, looking at the example provided, the assessment uses AI to summarize various sources to aid students in creating their reflection discussion post. Now, this is not final because you can always change whatever AI provides you with. One thing that I would change is the summarization tool. We see that it suggested the AI tools ChatGPT, of course, because I was using ChatGPT, and Copilot, but I would actually have students use the AI tool Notebook LM to provide them with podcast summaries so they can listen on the go. Notebook LM will also provide them with summarized notes, study guides, timelines, and they can even interact with the tool to ask questions. Although ChatGPT did provide me with assessments that utilize AI as a tool, I still wanted the assessment to be as authentic as possible with one-time experiences. And that way it's not easy to replicate, students can't cheat and pass on, create test banks, things like that. So to help with this, I then asked it to identify areas where interactive elements such as simulations, role play, or scenario-based learning can be incorporated. A simple yet effective prompt is, can any of these topics have an interactive AI-assisted assignment, such as a scenario or simulation? And this allows it to suggest case studies, role-playing exercises, and decision-making simulations that mirror real-world applications. By incorporating these elements, students can apply theoretical knowledge in practical, immersive ways. In the example provided, we see that students are going to apply criminology concepts to an AI-generated crime suspect profile and predict the likelihood of them reoffending. This shows that each student will end up having a unique experience because they'll end up getting a different crime suspect profile with different types of criminological features. So the final layer to this process is ensuring that assignments not only assess knowledge, but also help students develop skills for their future careers. One way I do this is by prompting AI to generate assessments that are not only interactive and fun, but also career-focused. For example, I like for my assessments to be interactive, fun, and engaging. I like for the assessments to have real-world applications to help with career path identification and workplace readiness. This prompt pushes AI to move beyond traditional assessments and propose project-based or scenario-driven assignments where students actively apply their learning. In the example provided, students are presented with an AI-generated scenario on a struggling prison system and to propose a prison reform policy and budget. I also want to take a moment to note that I have not shown an example from only week 1 on every single one of the slides so far. I've shown an example from week 1, week 2, and now we're actually taking a look at week 13. So you can really see how the large language model reasoned which assignments would be best to integrate AI into based on the specified manner that I was prompting for. So let's go ahead and take a look how this graduated prompt process will evolve a traditional assignment into more interactive and applied learning experiences. So on the left, we see that this is an assignment that I got from step 2. The assignment is a juvenile case study where students will analyze a juvenile justice case and suggest rehabilitation-focused intervention. The AI integration is to use AI-generated case scenarios for analysis. In the middle is an assignment from step 3. This assignment is an AI juvenile justice case study simulation, and AI generates a juvenile case file including family background, school behavior, and previous offenses. Students will be tasked to determine whether the juvenile should be tried as an adult or given rehabilitation options and justify recommendations based on the juvenile justice principles. The AI integration is used for case study generation. Now, on the right, we also see an assignment, but this one is from step 4. This assignment is an AI youth rehabilitation program design. The career tie-in is a juvenile justice counselor or social worker, and AI will present 3 juvenile offender case studies with different backgrounds. Students will have to design a personalized rehabilitation program for each juvenile and justify decisions using psychological and legal frameworks. The AI integration is used again for case study generation, and we'll see how this empowers students to develop real-world juvenile justice solutions. Now, although each iteration uses AI to generate a scenario, there is an added complexity and real-world application, moving from simple analysis on the left to simulation in the middle to fully applied problem-solving on the right. And this is another way to take learning further with your assignments. Before AI, assignments in this course were multiple choice questions, discussion posts answering reflection questions, and essays. Now, with the assistance of AI, students can gain more than just knowledge about human behavior, crime, and criminal justice. They can actively practice and apply the concepts to complete their assignments and also achieve the developmental goals of the course. Additionally, faculty no longer have to rely on costly publisher materials since certain AI platforms provide free and accessible tools for these activities. Now, one of the biggest takeaways from this process is that it can be applied across various disciplines. AI can be used to create tailored, engaging assignments in any subject. And so a simple prompt might be, I'm teaching a course on fill in the blank. Can you give me some fun and engaging ideas for assignments that incorporate AI? This allows AI to generate creative, discipline-specific assignments that align with the course's theme while maintaining interactivity and engagement. Now, this doesn't have to be an assignment that you use, but it can actually just be a starting point for you to think about how to take learning further with your students. So through this structured approach, establishing context, building a course structure, integrating interactive AI elements, ensuring career alignment, and expanding across disciplines, we can move AI from being a tool of curiosity to a central player in meaningful, well-designed learning experiences. As educators, instructional designers, and online learning developers, we have the opportunity to harness AI, not just for automation, but for innovation in pedagogy. AI-assisted assignments enable students to engage deeply, think critically, and apply knowledge in ways that prepare them for their future careers. So now we're going to go ahead and give you a chance to explore ways to incorporate AI assignments into your courses and hear insights from you on ways that you would adopt them into your courses. I'll go ahead and give it to Tanya to facilitate this activity.
Thank you, Aubry. Alrighty, so now we want to hear from you. We want you to think about your courses, think about the courses that you're working with faculty with, and choose an assignment from one of those courses that you think you could integrate AI with, and go ahead and let us know your great ideas in the chat. If there's a particular assignment that you do have in mind, but you just really can't think about how can I integrate AI into this assignment, please add that to the chat as well, and we'll try to come up with some ideas for you. So we're going to go ahead and mute for about 5 minutes and give you some time to think about that. Again, please add everything into the chat and we will get back to you in 5 minutes.
Good luck.
trained to become a mechanic.
All right, so welcome back. Thanks for participating in that. I don't know that we have any from the Slido, but we did notice we have a number of questions in the Zoom chat, so we can maybe take a little bit to address some of those questions.
Yeah.
I'll also pull up the conference app here if there's any questions that come through there, but Aubry, do you want to read out some questions that we can address?
Sure. There's one here from Caroline. She asked, was it any issue that Notebook LM requires a Google account to use?
At our institution, we actually have Google accounts. So for us, we just signed right in with our Google account. So we didn't have that issue. I would suggest maybe talking to your Office of Information Technology and seeing what you have available at your institution.
Another question also from Caroline, is there still a discussion component to this course? So actually, a lot of those assignments, especially with role play scenarios, what I tend to suggest to professors, if it's a group component, that's great. But one other thing that you could do is always have those scenarios or role play assessments be discussion boards. So that way students can not only get to experience their particular scenario, but they can then see other scenarios, how other students interact with those scenarios, and then they can provide feedback on that to really stimulate more conversation, not just based on their scenario, but all the other circumstances that they're interacting with and seeing. So it is a best practice to really try and have those be discussion posts in the same way that you would want a reflection post or a reflection discussion post. But now we're reflecting on various scenarios and how students interacted and rectified actions to help with solutions and possible developments of plans and things like that. Okay, so our next question from Jan. Does the instructor disclose that the assignments were generated using AI?
That's a good one.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a great kind of best practice to do. Like we're instructional designers, but we've also been teachers before, right? And so like whatever you want to model what you expect from your students. And so if you're going to use AI as an assistant and you want them to use AI as an assistant too, I think, just kind of guiding them through that and modeling the kind of, proper ethical use and responsible use that you want them to have as well.
Right. Ultimately, all we could do is give suggestions to our faculty, and then they'll make the final decision on whether they want to let their students know or not.
Next question we have from Caroline. Couple questions, so we'll probably answer these in 3 different sections. But how do you scaffold using AI into the course? So I'll go ahead and take this one. It's what I've been doing with faculty, because AI literacy is not necessarily apparent across all different types of subject matter experts. I tell them to just take one assignment so far and pilot it into their course. And we try to turn it into the easiest version of the assignment. So we're not using all these AI tools that are, trying to do data analysis and data visualization stuff, because that's really, really complicated. We're just trying to not only scaffold it for students to be able to use, but scaffold it into the course for the professor to be able to teach it and get used to it, kind of get their feet wet. So what I've been trying to do is develop a easy version of the assignment for them to pilot, get comfortable with, and then, maybe for an open lab service where they come to us and they want to make minor changes to their course, or in their course design update, we'll go ahead and start implementing more AI-assisted assignments. We'll reflect on that one, see what modifications we can make, and then areas that we can go ahead and add some additional assignments. Sorry, my phone logged out. Next question, do you ever have a practice assignment or other low-stakes assignments they could do first? No, but that is something great to consider. And I think that should be something that we add to our template if the course is going to have an AI-assisted assignment.
I agree.
Something to consider for us now. So thank you so much, Caroline, for that. And then last question, do you always recommend ChatGPT as an AI tool and Notebook LM?
No, actually, we don't. We love ChatGPT, but that's just because our boss purchased it all for us. But in our university actually supports Microsoft Copilot. Microsoft Copilot is the same large language model as ChatGPT, so it's the same information. We recommend our faculty and our students to use Microsoft Copilot because it's our walled garden. So we don't have to worry so much about information that we don't want the large language model teaching itself on. So yeah, we definitely recommend Microsoft Copilot at our institution. I'm sure, different institutions have different tools that they may have as a walled garden. So I would definitely check again with maybe your Office of Information Technology to see what tool you should be using.
Another thing that we always do is whenever professors do ask us about certain tools that they can use, we always redirect them to our Office of Information Technology page, because they have specified resources that they can actually provide support to.
Right.
So that's another way that we kind of redirect them, so that way they know what is available at our institution.
The only thing I was going to add is that, tools are hard because there's like a new tool every second, it seems like.
Yeah.
But so like some of us have been playing around with Claude lately, and I think what I'm starting to see is like the tools are becoming more like specified for, like one tool is better for one purpose and another tool will work best for another purpose.
Right.
I think we'll continue to kind of see them specialize in that way. So, maybe the best tool is a combination of all the tools.
Yeah.
I think that about brings us to time.
There's one more question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we do have one more minute left. So Sharon did ask, and this is a really good question.
Okay.
So what if students object to AI? I have had some that do based on environmental issues, and this is
Great
like
question.
such a good thing, because I am someone who is such an environmentalist, but I am sitting here in an AI virtual conference, which is very, I guess you could kind of say hypocritical of myself, but there is a lot of environmental issues and environmental aspects to it. So one thing that I would suggest is to kind of pinpoint it around to that student and what their career path is, what they want to do, and how AI is actually developing and progressing within that particular career path. If it's not, then maybe AI literacy is not necessarily for them, but if it is, that then shows them the importance of why they need to go ahead and just get used to it a little bit, so that way they can become fluent and get the career that they really want.
Great.
Yeah, love it.
That brings us to 2:50. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to get to share all of this with you. If you have further questions, you can continue to post them in the conference app, and we'll review those. It's been our pleasure, and hope you have a great rest of your conference.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. Excellent presentation.
Thanks.